I am Teresa Tuchscherer, and I attend Crestview United Methodist Church, located here in Topeka, Kansas, in Shawnee County. And I have been a part of Hands on Topeka since it began 3 years ago. I am the person that is in contact with local coordinators at each church. We discovered early on that pastors are way too busy to continue to communicate with us. So we had them appoint a local coordinator at each church, and that person is the one that we were in contact with throughout the process. As you set up your team at the district level, if that's how you're going to do it, you're going to get people that are assigned to different parts. Like I said, I was the local coordinator contact person. We have other contact persons that work with the city. Some people work with the advertising. That person needs to be available. So they all had my cell phone, they all had my email. There were some that had a lot of questions, there were some that had no questions at all. So communication is a big part of what my job was, is to make sure everybody knew what was going on. Not everybody can make every meeting, so you need to make sure that you're communicating with everyone. So communication is a big key. You've got to have the time to make those phone calls, send those emails, send out those notes, and just make sure people know what they're doing. Stay on top of it, and it's a pretty easy thing to do. Hands on Topeka is a community event where we go out into the community to clean up the parks or schools or some neighborhood homes, Habitat for Humanity areas. It's been an exciting project, but it does take a lot of people. So how do you get a local coordinator? We initially made the contact with the pastor and asked them to appoint someone. So we get that person on board, hoping that they're an enthusiastic and fun and outgoing person that has a lot of creativity in getting folks to sign up. So we meet together with the pastors and their local coordinator to get things kicked off. This is a cooperative effort with our city and county parks and recs people, so they're on board as well. Our district superintendent is very involved, and then there's a team of volunteers from various churches that do different jobs. Like I said, mine was the coordinator of the coordinators, so I was the one that did the communicating by email or by phone with the coordinators outside of the regular meetings. We only had probably 2 or 3 meetings to get out the information. Part of that was to hand out media things like the posters. We have a DVD so you can show PowerPoint to advertise. We had some different flyers, banners, lots of different ways to advertise. So we made sure that each church had a kit so that they could begin the process of advertising. So then the job begins with the local coordinator. They go back to their church. They may have consulted with their pastor. They may have consulted with some other folks on a committee perhaps. Every church did it a little bit differently. Some created some awesome displays that they had up during worship. Some just made announcements from the pulpit. Some used PowerPoint. We have some video and some pictures from past years that could be incorporated into the advertising. So our point was to get everybody excited about going out into the community and doing hands-on work. T-shirts were sold. Lunch, dinner actually, is what we have provided the last couple years. So all of that information was shared, the excitement began to grow. We started this process before Lent, before Ash Wednesday, and that was our kickoff time because it usually ends right after Easter. So the various churches did what they needed to do to get things going. Meanwhile, we were working with the city and county people, trying to figure out what park or area that we might go to. Folks started gathering up rakes and shovels and gloves and things like that so they'd be ready to work. Most of the coordinators organized a lunch. Our time frame is we would go to worship. Following worship, we would eat, usually together at the church. Some people had pizza, some sandwiches, whatever you wanted to do, and then we headed out to our area. The park might be big enough. It had 2 or 3 different churches, so it was kind of cool to meet up with other people. But again, the local coordinator is the one that got you going on that. The registration process is probably one of the biggest pieces, and you need to be creative in how you do that. I believe that at my church this time, I'm going to work out a spreadsheet. I'm going to have folks sign up with me. Maybe I'm going to have a giveaway with that. Hey, sign up, you can get, we have a few extra t-shirts left over. Maybe we can give away some t-shirts. If your church is in a position where they could purchase some t-shirts to give away as an incentive, that would be awesome. Inviting youth group to join in is a way to go. Maybe you can have a challenge between your youth group and your neighboring church's youth group and see how many you can get enrolled. Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, if you have those at your church. Certainly anyone in the community, it's a community event. Obviously we want volunteers from within our church, but it is a community event, and any groups that you can bring in is just awesome. We had, a couple years ago, we had some kids from a home here in town that came and helped. They were located in one particular place. It was worked out with all the personnel, and it was awesome to have their help. So you need to think outside the box and how you do that. Maybe the first 10 people that sign up, maybe this year I'll do something special. So make it a big deal. Bring your laptop, sign them up right there on spot. Try to get your pastor behind it, because if he'll say something from the pulpit, it'll go just a little farther. Work within the groups in your church to get people signed up and excited to do it. Maybe another way to get some volunteers. Not everyone can physically volunteer, so depending on what kind of project, maybe this is not going to just be going out to parks. Maybe we've talked about going to a clothing bank and helping to do something. There are folks that can sit down and fold clothes. There are folks that can do other kinds of mission work on a day like this. So maybe you want to be creative in some ideas of what to come up with to do that. I think we're going to expand into some schoolyards this year. That's exciting for us, to go to a school and be a part of what's going on there. So think about what you can do in your community and get folks excited about it, and they'll sign up and go with you. One thing that I learned in doing the coordinating piece is many people assume that everyone knows what's going on. So there were questions. And so make sure that you speak with clarity, which is real important in any conversation. Some of the questions that we had were about how do you announce it. So coming up with some ideas from previous years and sharing those is a really good tool for a coordinator to have. Skits were one thing that were used in some churches to explain what was going on. Some people did kind of a different announcement every week, kind of just built on their announcement, did a little differently. Because the questions come, what about meals? What about water bottles? What do I need to bring? So you need to make sure you're clear in what is the district going to provide and what do I need to provide. In Topeka, there were certain things we couldn't do in the parks. So we needed to be real clear, and there were questions about, well, can I go paint? Can I trim the tree? No, you can't trim the tree. Yes, you can paint this. So clarity was real important in the communication as well. There were questions about how old do the kids have to be. The first year we did this, we tried having childcare at one church. We had a few kids, I think, that went over there, but it was hard to find a central place, and it's hard to leave your child with a stranger. So kids are welcome. They certainly are welcome. Youth groups came under the supervision of their youth leader usually. So that was something that the individual churches worked out. The youth leader or leaders were responsible for their youth. As far as children that were younger, they needed to be definitely under the supervision of a parent, a couple parents. Whoever brings them needs to be responsible for them. For instance, the park I worked at is right next to a big creek, and we were told to stay back from obviously from the edge of the creek, but kids are kids. So there are places that are not as safe as others for the children. So while it's a wonderful joy to have them there, perhaps one parent can entertain them at the park and the other parent could be working, or a friend could help out, or whatever is appropriate. But we don't want to discourage them because it's mission and we want them to get a sense of that, but we want everyone to be safe as well. So if you're going to have children involved, make sure you have a plan for who is going to be in charge of them. Do we need to have parents' permission for them? Yes, you do. So there was a little bit of issue on how that happened, and we worked that out so that anyone under 18 had to have permission to be there. So youth groups We got them signed up, and that was fine. Scouts groups, we got them signed up. Does the coordinator want to provide anything outside the bottled water that the district was able to provide? Do we bring our own drinks? All those little things that maybe we didn't think of initially came from the coordinators. So that was another thing that helped us get it going. Oh, well, we hadn't thought about that. So getting people excited about it is a big deal when you first start, and keeping them excited is a big deal. But you need to kind of nurture them a little bit, and some folks don't quite understand, or especially the first year we did it, didn't understand exactly what was going to happen. The coordinators didn't all understand exactly what was going to happen, but knowing that you need to keep everyone informed in your church is your primary job, to really make that communication happen, to make sure it's clear communication and get everyone on board and excited all at the same time. And hopefully when you get everybody there, you take pictures, because you're going to do it next year, you hope. So you're going to promote it with how much fun we had, this is what we did. Really, be thinking down the road, this is something pretty awesome, we're going to do it again, and really make it a big. So the local coordinator's job kind of ends with getting everyone signed up and getting everyone to the place, and then they can kick back and relax. There is some time involved in emailing, phone calls to make sure we knew what we were doing. Like I said, everybody kind of promoted it however they wanted to promote it, but they were given ideas at the meeting, and we shared some ideas. So it's not a huge time commitment, but it's a very important one. You need to be able to communicate with the folks in your congregation, and you know best how they would respond. We also had site coordinators, and those persons were the ones that were on site at each park. They have consulted with the city and county people. They have maps of what they need to do. They have a list of the projects that need to be done. They set up a registration spot, not registration, check-in spot on site, and something very visible for people to come check in, get their trash bags, get their assignment, and the site coordinator kind of makes sure that the jobs get done. Some got done a little early, so maybe they coordinated going to another site to help. Site coordinator was also responsible for picking up supplies like trash bags, water bottles, bottled water, and they were in communication with the other site coordinators and with the district superintendent. It's about a 3-hour afternoon for maybe if you're doing some kind of a closing, which we do. This year we're going to have an ice cream social out at the lake, so that'll be extra special fun. So and we usually have a praise band, and everybody pats each other on the back and gets to know their neighbor a little bit better. We don't always spend time with our neighbor churches besides with people that aren't United Methodist, so that's all exciting. We've had a lady at where we have been for the last 2 years. She's Catholic, she comes out and visits with us and loves to do it. Even joined us for the meal last year. So there's some exciting ways to do the outreach. We've also gone out into the neighborhoods, dropped off door handle advertising. We've had lots of billboard advertising. Of course, that was all by way of a grant, which has been a real blessing to us. So you need to be creative in how you're going to advertise as well. Get somebody on board that'll help you out with that. Just make that impact in your neighborhood, and if you get folks fired up at your church, they're going to fire up somebody else's church, and we're going to go out and make a real difference. And it's a lot of fun. So I hope that you're going to be a part of that.